All right, well, thanks for your patience, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for being with us for this really, really important conversation we're having this afternoon. My name is Meredith Ward. I'm the Associate Rector for Pastoral Care here at St. Bart's, and I'm delighted to welcome you all to this special forum. On Friday, we received word that a group of Israeli hostage families were going to be in town for one day only, and our friends at Central Synagogue contacted us and asked us if we would be able to host them or be interested in hosting them for this conversation. And we said, of course, we would very much like to hear from them and learn about their experiences, their perspectives, and their hopes. So we quickly put this forum together. It's been all of really 2 days in the making, but we are so delighted to have you here, and I'm going to introduce you shortly and turn the floor over to you. But before I do, just wanted to ask our rector, Dean Wolf, to say a brief welcome as well.
Well, we're delighted you're here, and under other circumstances, we'd probably have even more members of the congregation here, but the good news is we're filming this, so more people will hear this than are here present today. And so we hope you feel most welcome.
Yeah. So thank you to our friends, as I said, at Central Synagogue, Rabbi Sarah Berman, who some of you know as a friend of St. Bart's, Michal Abramoff, who put us together, Dana, wherever Dana is, somewhere, who is accompanying the families, and then the families, excuse me, Aviva Siegal, Elan Siegal, Niva Venkart, and Udi Goren. Oh, I'm sorry. Udi Goren. Thank you. Welcome to you all, and I'm going to now turn the floor over to you.
Thank you very much for being here and listening to our stories. And like I said before, when the Jews invite us, then okay, the Jews invite us because we're all together. But when I come here to talk to you, that means that we need humans in all the world to stay human and to remember that what happened to me and the hostages, the 120 hostages that are still there and their families, we're human. And we want the humans in all the world to have a better life. I want everybody, not only the Jews, I want the people, the good people in Gaza to go back to their lives. And I want only good for everybody. So I was kidnapped on the 7th of October. That's a long time ago. And since then, I still feel that I'm kidnapped and that I haven't come back. I'm still in Gaza with the pictures that I can see that are going through my head. And I have a husband there that's 65 that is still there. And it's hard for me to explain what it's like to say goodbye to somebody that you've been living with for 43 years, not knowing if you'll ever see him again. So I'm lucky to be here with you, and I feel lucky that I'm still alive. And we need Keith and the hostages to come back as soon as possible. So I was taken from my house, an ordinary house, with my pajamas. At 6:30 in the morning, the first alarm came, and Gaza has been throwing missiles on Kibbutz Gaza for more than 20 years. At the beginning, when I used to hear them go out from Gaza, I used to hide behind trees or lie on the grass with my hands on my head or run from place to place. But I never, ever thought that I'll be in a situation that I would be kidnapped. And even worse than that, that Keith would be kidnapped and would still be there. So the alarm came on, and we ran to our little shelter that we have today. We've had the shelter for maybe 8 years, but before that, we used to hide in the shower, all the family, and just pray that nothing will happen to us. So I come from a community that's called Kibbutz Kfar Aza, and 64 people from my community were murdered. There's at least 13 houses that there's nobody to go back to. There were families that were burnt alive. There were 2 little kids that were 9 months old, that they killed their parents and just left them, and they were left alone for 19 hours. There's 2 children that their mother was dead in front of them while the father was killed outside, and they hid themselves in a cupboard for more than 17 hours. There's a family that they found them hugged on a bed, 5 people. And so many things happened that day. That day was beyond humanity. What happened in the Nova, where the kids went to dance, her child, was beyond. There were girls that were raped in front of their boyfriends, and then they killed the boyfriend, and then they killed the person they raped. And I'm a witness for that, because while I was in Gaza, I witnessed. The girls were touched. And it's very hard for me to tell you exactly what happened there, but what I can tell you, that these girls are young, and they might have never ever been touched. But the Hamas terrorists just allow themselves to do whatever they want to, whenever they want to. They treated us like dirt. I say that Keith and I and the girls that I was with, we were like rugs on a mattress on a floor for 51 days. I was up ground, I was down ground, I was 40 meters underneath the ground, trying to feel how I'm going to survive, and if I'm going to survive, because there was no oxygen to breathe, while we were just left there. The Hamas terrorists didn't feel good there, so they just went up to a house, and they just left us there with no food, no water, a toilet with no water, with no light. It was dark. Just sitting on a mattress and trying to figure out how to take the next breath, and if you're going to die, and if you're going to see your husband dead, and what will happen if you die slowly. So that's what I went through. I went through hell. I was starved. I wasn't allowed to stand. I wasn't allowed to move. I wasn't allowed to walk. We had 1 second to go to the bathroom, no matter what. I had 4 kind of showers. I had to wash myself in salty water. I wore the same clothes for more than 25 days. And I was treated like I was nothing. I wasn't allowed to be sad. I used to hide myself crying. I used to lie on the mattress and put my hand on my head and cry. I think it's the worst thing that could ever happen to anybody, what I went through and what Keith is going through and the hostages are going through, and that they're still there. So I'm screaming. The world needs to be a better world. And the leaders of the world and anybody that can make the world better need to understand that they need to get out of there. Thank you.
I just want to say, first I want to thank you for being here and listening to our story. I want to say just a few things about my dad and about me as a child growing up really next to the border. Our kibbutz, our view from my childhood house is Gaza, is the buildings of Gaza. And I think what we have heard mostly growing up is that we really wish for peace with the people on the other side of the fence. we didn't feel any hate for most of the people there. We were raised to believe and to know that the people that want us to be injured or dead are a really few people in Gaza. And I think about my dad a lot of times right now, that it's not only that he has been kidnapped. I think the human people or the human world has shattered in his face, being there for so many days. And I just want to say that I know that many other people don't feel like it's a Jewish story, what happened on October 7th. It's not about Judaism, and it's not about Jewish people. Because in the tunnels in Gaza right now are Muslim people that were being kidnapped. There are Thai people, and actually there are people from more than 20 nationalities around the world that are being held. And us being here is saying no to terror and holding our hands together and saying no more for radical people controlling our rights, controlling our life. My life has stopped 9 months ago, and we all want so badly to go back to our simple life, to have a nice meal, to go to the beach, to read a good book. So thank you for listening, and I really would want to ask you that when we are done here and you go back to your lives and to your world, to share our stories and to speak up for human rights, for my dad that really never hated anyone for any reason, and to speak up for him and for Omer and for all the other people just like us that are being held right now.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having us here. I'm Niva Venkart. I'm Omer's mother, and I'm a hostage mother. I'm married to Shai. Together we have 3 kids. Omer is already 23. Ran, he's 19 years old. And Maya, she's 13 years old. And we are, till to the 6th of October, anonymous, happy family. And I wish, and I'm waiting to be again, anonymous, happy family. I share you my story. That horrible Saturday, we woke up to a loud sirens. We live 40 kilometers from Gaza Strip, and we ran to the shelter at home. We called Omer because Omer wasn't at home. He told us that he is at the Nova Fest, and he's looking for a shelter. He told me, "Mommy, don't worry, I will call you when I get a shelter." After a few minutes, he starts text me that he's in the shelter. Don't worry, Mommy, everything is okay. There is a lot of missiles, but we will stay here till it ends. The time is going on, and nothing is okay. We start to understand that something very big has happened in Israel. And Omer texted me, "Mommy, there is a shooting guns." And this was the turning point, because I know the shelter can protect him from the missiles, but not from the shooting guns. And I told him, "Who is shooting?" He told me, "I don't know." Then he texted me, "Mommy, I'm scared to death." And this was the last text until today, and I hope and I know there will be more text, positive text. That Saturday afternoon, my husband got a phone call. It told him that Omer is alive, but he's not in our hands. The Hamas released a video that we can saw him on a truck only with his underwear, with his hand behind his back, beating the Hamas, 4 or 5 Hamas terrorists, putting a gun over his head and shouting, and the truck is going straight to Gaza. That was the moment that my life war began, to bring my son back home. As Elan said, our life stopped, and me and my husband and all my family are in one mission, to bring Omer back home. After a few days, we got an evidence from the shelter. One of the survivors there told us the story. He told us that they were 30 or 40 young people, most of them murdered, because the Hamas terrorists threw 7 or 8 grenades to the shelter. This is a very small place, the shelter. It's used for 4 or 5, 10 maybe people, and there were 30 or 40 people there. They threw 7 or 8 grenades, and then they burned something in the entrance of the shelter to choke them, the survivor, to death. 3 people that's still alive tried to run for their lives and get out from the shelter, and everybody that get out shoot. Omer said at that point, even though he knows he should be shooting by the terrorist, he said, "I don't stay here to die like this," meaning by choking. And he went out, but the terrorist yelled, "Don't shoot, don't shoot," and they decided to kidnap him. And I thank God for this, because I know my son is still alive. I'm here today, we are here today, because we need you. This is not about banderias, this is not about religion, this is about the future of the world. What happened in the 7th of October is pure evil, is the collapse of the humanity. And only together we can win the bad people. And we need you. We need you to stand near us and make sure the next, our generation, yours and mine, will be living in a better place, in a better world. Thank you very much.
My name is Udi Goren. I'm the cousin of Tal Haimi. Tal was from Kibbutz Nir Yitzchak. On October 7th, he went out to confront the terrorists that were trying to invade the kibbutz. And he was murdered that morning, and his body was taken to Gaza along with other members of the kibbutz and Tal's brother-in-law. Ever since then, we have been in this campaign to bring the hostages back home, and it took 2 months until the Israeli military could confirm to us that they know for certain that Tal was indeed murdered on that day. And yet, he still needs to be back home. He needs to be back home in the kibbutz where his grandparents were the founders of, where he chose to live his entire life, where he chose to raise a family, and where he died. And his kids also need a resting place so they can go visit their dad, who died a hero, defending them. We are now at a point in time after 9.5 months of war that there is a very real option for a deal. And we tend to call it a hostage deal, but in reality, it's far more than that. It is a deal that is supposed to bring all the hostages back, but it's also a deal that's supposed to bring some tranquility and stability to the entire region. It's a deal that's supposed to stop hostilities. It's a deal that's supposed to alleviate the suffering of the Gazan civilians. And it's a deal that's supposed to stop the rocket launching from Gaza to Israel. It's a deal that's supposed to stop the hostilities in northern Israel. It's a deal that's supposed to stop hostilities from Yemen towards Israel. And this is why I say it's far more than a deal just to bring the hostages back. But bringing the hostages back is the key to this deal. In reality, there is no other reason for this war to still go on aside from bringing them back. And Israel cannot afford to itself to stop and retreat before we have every single person back home. And if I want to take it, if I would like to reiterate what Aviva said, and take a step back, and I want to say that this event and actually the collaboration that we see, the interfaith collaboration that we are now experiencing, is something that is far greater than any individual event or any individual house of God, be it a synagogue or be it a church. And I think that the way you're able to join forces based on mutual values, then this is exactly the reason that you are here. Because I don't think there's anyone in this room or watching us from home that doesn't believe in the sanctity of life. Can someone say they don't believe in the sanctity of life? Of course not. This is why we are here. And this upcoming deal deals exactly with that. Saving the people who are still alive, bringing the people who are dead to be buried in Israel, and in effect saving the lives of their families that can finally have closure, find some solace, and begin rebuilding their lives. And, you know, this is the ripple effect of the destruction that we saw on October 7th is so far beyond the hostages. Many of these people don't have a home. Aviva doesn't have a home yet. She can't go back to her kibbutz. Tal's family doesn't have a home. They can't go back to their kibbutz. And this reconstruction of life can only begin once we have this deal. And the reason I keep saying this is because on Wednesday, our Prime Minister Netanyahu will be in Washington addressing Congress. In such a dire situation in Israel, we think and believe and keep stressing that the only real reason he could be coming here is to discuss with the American government, who has been extremely supportive of the hostage deal efforts, is to discuss the sealing of this deal. There is nothing more important than this. And to reiterate what Niva mentioned, we definitely need your support. We need your support speaking up, speaking, be it to your congresspeople, be it as a community, be it in the local newspapers, in the local media, joining forces. And I would dare say there is probably room for a mosque in this collaboration, because we definitely know that Hamas is not Islam. Absolutely not. Many Muslim people do believe in the sanctity of life and have a seat by this table. And to have this joint statement, we support life, we support this deal, we support the end of hostilities. We care about people. We care about the hostages, we care about the hostage families, we care about the Gazans who are suffering tremendously. Everybody in their right mind and in their right heart can join this statement. And this would be our ask of you, to have the powers at be hear you say this. Lastly, what I want to tell you about is the organization that brought us here, the Hostage Family Forum, is a civilian organization that came together in Israel within days of this catastrophe. And the Hostage Family Forum does two things. One is that it takes care of the families that have been hurt tremendously, and the state of Israel has been trying its best to support. However, a government, like any other government, moves slowly and with a lot of bureaucracy on the way. And since this event is unprecedented, not only in Israel, in the Western world, nothing like this has ever happened, that it's not this one-time event. It's not, you had 9/11, which was a catastrophe just as big, if not worse. However, it was one day, and then you had to take care of the ruins and move on. We are still dealing with the consequences 9.5 months later. We're still on October 7th. And so this is one thing that the forum does. The other thing that it does is that it runs the most significant, influential campaign that we probably have ever had coming out of Israel. And the campaign says one thing and one thing only: bring the hostages back as soon as possible in a deal. And throughout this campaign, we were able to reach every single government official, definitely in Israel, in the US, in Qatar, in Egypt, anyone that has anything to do with this. We have been speaking to them. We've been speaking to the American public, obviously to the Israeli public. We've been speaking in Europe. And this is also the organization that helped us be here, set up this event, and speak to you. And if you wanted to be involved or help out in the efforts, Dana, that is here, would be more than happy to hook you up and give you the resources or the connections or the opportunities to be a part of this. So again, thank you all for being here. Just being here is a statement of what you believe in, and we'll be more than happy to take questions.
Thank you, Udi. Thank you all very much for sharing your stories. We are open to taking questions, so if you are in the room, Eileen Scott has question cards, so if you have questions for the panelists, just raise your hand and she will bring you a card and you can write your question down. If you're joining us online, you can put your questions in the comments section or in the chat, or you can email me at mward@stbarts.org. While we're waiting for those questions to come in, I'm just struck by these really unimaginable stories, how you are managing to just live day to day. How are you getting by? How are you managing?
The only thing that goes in front of me is Keith and the hostages. I'm here to talk for them.
Yeah.
And that's what I do. I've been doing that since I've come back. Talking and talking all over the world with anybody that can hear and anybody that's willing to listen to me, and begging for them to help me take Keith out and the hostages. Yeah. Because they do not deserve to be there, and they do not deserve to go what they're going through. And that's the only thing that comes in front of me.
Yeah.
I can say that there is no other choice for me. My son cannot shout for his voice to take him out, so I have to shout for him. My son Omer has a colitis. If you know what it is, it's chronic disease, very severe disease. And I can't imagine what he's going through down there in the tunnels with conditions that's not for a human being. So I have no choice. Yeah. And I won't stop till I hug him again.
Yeah, so really, this is it. By way of elimination, what other choice do we have? And I will say this, the people that you do see speaking up and appearing on TV and in the media are the people who are able to function. And this is not true to all the families. There is a significant amount of families who stopped functioning on October 7th, and you don't hear their voice. And this is why we speak for them as well. And there are many families that, the immediate family has just stopped functioning. So they need, the second circle of relatives to support them. And this is why sometimes you would hear a cousin speak. In my instance, for example, as I mentioned, Tal's family doesn't have a home. They've been evacuated to southern Israel. So they are as far away geographically as could be. Tal's wife had 3 kids. 2 months ago, she gave birth to their 4th orphan child. So she obviously doesn't have any time to be a part of this campaign, and this is why I'm here speaking on her behalf.
I know that you're here visiting, you're doing a lot of other talks. You were someplace else this morning, and I know you're traveling around the US while you're here. I've also seen you on TV. I've seen Aviva actually interviewed on TV. So I know that you are getting around and really getting the word out. And you mentioned also that mostly when you are on location, it sounds like you're speaking mostly to Jewish organizations. Have you been brought into other Christian organizations, or are we different for you, this church?
I think there have been other venues, definitely some churches, but also it's not just about the Jewish community. As Aviva mentioned, the Jewish community are the people that immediately embrace us. So obviously it's very easy to get, to talk there and so on. But I think that, as you've just said, it's incredibly important to get the message out further than the Jewish community, because it's not a Jewish issue. Right. It is definitely a humanitarian issue. So we, via the forum, we've definitely been trying and have been successful in getting other venues to host us, even sometimes in political venues. Anywhere where there's an audience that's willing to listen, we will get there.
I was invited last time that I was here in New York, and there was somebody that was a very well-known Muslim person, and there was a priest, and there was other people there that believe in other things, and it was very, very, very special. And what I remember most is the Muslim person stood up and spoke to everybody that was in the room, and he said that we don't know how much it's affecting all the Muslims all over the world too, because people look at them differently, as if they're terrorists maybe. And I'm just begging the world to wake up, because we all need a better life and a better world.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Aviva. Yeah, Udi, I loved what you said about people being in their right mind and their right heart. And I think that is something that we can we all share. Of any faith or no faith, that is the place where we can meet our common humanity. How has the response been to your talks? Are you getting a lot of support from unexpected places?
If we would put all the love of the people together, we would win this world. People are amazing.
Thank you.
Everybody's got such a big heart. Wherever I go, they just want to give and help and hug and love and cry. Yeah. And they're sad. So many people in the world are so sad. And it doesn't mean that they're Jews.
I think we're at a point in time where public discourse is so dichotomous, and it's all over the world. It's so extreme. People keep talking about the social media effect, and what we need to battle that is to turn up the light and do it based on mutual values such as this. And whenever I appear on foreign media, this is exactly what I talk about. If you care about people, if you truly care about humans, you should care about Tal, you should care about me, and you should care about the Gazan civilians as well, because we're all people. And throughout these interviews, I've had people contact me online from Lebanon, from other Muslim countries. Muslims in Australia have been calling me, and we need to remember that, extremists are very easy to notice because they get a lot of attention, because it's easy to note. But this common ground of, if I want to simplify it, let's just get along. It's not that popular, but we have to keep saying it. We have to keep saying it. There are people who are suffering on both sides of the fence, and we are people who are suffering. And if you truly, truly care, you can't just care about one side of the fence. It doesn't matter which side.
Right.
I want to say that for me personally, each time I leave my house to go on those delegations, and I've been doing it for at least in the last 7 months, maybe like 10 times, leaving my 3 kids, is kind of seeking for hope. Like I kind of feel like I have to see that there are good people around the world, because I think growing up in Israel is like you all the time feel that there are people that hate you somewhere. Some of them are close to you, some of them are far away. And there was a period of time during those 9 months that I really felt like there is no place in the world that is safe for me. And I remember really like stressing out because I have a 10-year-old, I have an 8-year-old, I have a 6-year-old that I brought to this world. And so for me, each time that I'm going on a flight or going into a room with people, I just want to feel that I brought my kids to a good world with good people that wants good life.
Yeah. We have a question from the audience, someone who asks, what is the most important thing we can do to help this come to a successful outcome?
I think the most thing is don't stay quiet. Mm-hmm. Please talk. Please write about this. Please help us keep the hostages story and the popular public opinion. You must write this for me. I always forget. This is what I need. This is what we need. Because they cannot shout for their voice. They are in the tunnels, Keith, Omer, and a lot of people there. So please stand for them and talk.
I would say, do anything you feel like you can do. Yesterday, we walked around the city, and Niva took off her necklace with the Star of David because she felt like not safe, going around the city with it on her neck. And it was just so depressing seeing her taking that off and feeling like we need to be scared by just like growing up in a Jewish country. And I see all the people that are going on the streets, and I know that we are so much the same. So I would want to ask you to just maybe to never pick a side. I'm not picking a side. I see the Israelis as Israeli people. I see the Gaza innocent people as Gaza innocent people. I see the Israeli government, and I see Hamas, and I see each of those, I don't know, groups as a really different thing. And just for you to remember that there are millions of people in Israel that want peace and wants to live a simple life. And if you have any influence in your work, in your friends, in your family, to speak up for us, to speak up for the hostages, and to really say what's mostly not been heard in the media, that there are simple people that didn't go to any war, that they were taken from their houses, and they have to come home, because the October 7th could be the last time something like that has ever happened, and it could be the start of people being taken from their houses by terrorists. It can happen anywhere around the world, and I know you know it.
I say one more thing. I think the problem is that the majority are silent, and איך אומרים מיעוט? The minority are very loud. And this is one of the problems, because I think the majority wants peace, the majority wants to live together and to be in love and to make the world better for the next generation, as I said before. So please don't be the silent majority.
Thank you both for pointing that out, because, you know, I know you've probably seen the divisive arguments that we're having here in this country on college campuses with students and all different groups who can't seem to find common ground. The common ground, Udi, that you were talking about, and the voices for peace just seem to be completely absent. But it feels like peace is not interesting to the media or something, you know, which is why I think what you're doing is so important, because you're telling a story that is horrendous and tragic, and you're standing for peace, and you're getting the attention that others may not get. The extreme voices seem to be the ones who get heard on both sides.
Most of the time, we try to avoid politics in general. However, I'm happy to delve into politics, because I think that at the end of the day, we are now at a point in time where we, the people who live in this region, can pick a different narrative to tell and pick a different route for our future. This catastrophe, this calamity that we're living through might be, if we choose, the last one, as Niva has mentioned. Because we can say after this, when they're all back, we can say, we have had enough. We've had enough. We will not have it anymore on both sides. We've been killing each other for 75 or 150 years, depending when you want to start counting. And we're done with this. And I think what you've mentioned what we see on campuses and so on, and the divisive discourse that we hear goes back to, I would say, really an anachronistic discourse that is no longer relevant. And I will say this, and had we had more time, or was it a different topic, I'd be happy to elaborate. But here's one thing I want to leave you with. There is no such thing in reality as being pro-Palestinian or being pro-Israeli. No such thing, because there is an equal amount of people between the river and the sea that are Palestinians and are Israeli. Equal amount. Nobody is going anywhere. So if you, by definition, support one of them, you support war. You support an ongoing conflict. So if you want to speak about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, you can only be pro-conflict or pro-resolution, because nobody is going anywhere. Nobody's going to evaporate into thin air. So as long as you say, I'm pro-Palestinian, then you are actually saying that moderate Israelis who want to live in peace and have a room in their heart for both people, they don't have a place between the river and the sea, and vice versa. So therefore, the terminology must change. You're either pro-resolution or you're pro-conflict.
It's a great way to end this conversation. Udi, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your voices. Thank you for your courage in being willing to tell your stories over and over and over again. I know it can't be easy, but we are so honored to have you with us today, and we thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
And we're